rejected and returned too many times, until a human gave the alien girl a forever home. Her skin shimmered with a faint glow, shifting from blue to green like sunlight over an ocean. Her eyes were large and bright, reflecting stars in a way that made humans stop and stare. She had been born on a distant planet, far beyond the familiar systems of the core worlds, and yet she had never really had a home. She had been passed from one world to another, each adoption attempt ending in disappointment. Some aliens had found her too unusual. Others had been afraid of her intelligence, which often surpassed theirs. Lyra had never understood why no one wanted her. She was polite, kind, and curious, but somehow she always ended up being returned. Now, at just 10 cycles of her life, Lyra sat quietly in the waiting room of the intergalactic adoption station. The station was enormous, a floating city of glass and steel orbiting a small, blue-green planet. Ships of all shapes and sizes came and went, carrying children, parents, and the occasional wandering creature. The room buzzed with soft chatter, the hum of engines, and the occasional beep of hovering droids. Lyra's small body curled beneath a large window, her hands pressed against the cool glass. She watched ships leave for distant planets, each one carrying a child who had finally found a home. Her heart ached as she imagined what it would feel like to belong somewhere, to have someone wait for her, to be called family. A soft chime echoed through the room, and a group of aliens walked past her. They were tall and slender with silver skin and long limbs, their movements graceful and deliberate. One of them glanced at Lyra, then shook their head before walking on. Lyra's shoulders slumped. Another rejection. Another reminder that she was different, and that difference was a burden. She sighed, letting her forehead rest against the glass. Outside, the stars sparkled, infinite and indifferent. Lyra wished she could just vanish into the void, disappear where no one could see her. But even in her loneliness, a tiny part of her refused to give up. Somewhere out there, maybe, just maybe, someone would see her not as a problem, but as a treasure. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of footsteps approaching. Lyra lifted her head and blinked, taking in the sight of a human family entering the waiting room. Humans were rare in this part of the galaxy. They moved differently from other species, with their upright posture and small, rounded bodies. The father, tall and broad-shouldered, scanned the room with calm eyes, while the mother, shorter and gentle-looking, held a small, energetic child by the hand. Lyra felt her heart skip a beat. There was something different about these humans. They didn't look frightened or impatient. They didn't whisper about her the way others did. Instead, they seemed curious, as if they noticed her in a way that mattered. The father's eyes met hers for a moment. Lyra quickly looked away, embarrassed. She wasn't used to anyone paying attention to her in a positive way. Usually their gaze was filled with doubt, suspicion, or pity. But this human, it felt different. A small droid rolled past, tripping over a cable and nearly falling onto Lyra. Without thinking, she reached out a glowing hand, catching the droid mid-fall. Its circuits buzzed and a soft voice chirped, "Thank you, young one, your reflexes are impressive." The human father's mouth curved into a small smile. "That's remarkable," he said softly. Not many children notice the little things like that. Lyra flushed, unsure what to say. No one had ever complimented her before. Most people saw only her odd appearance or her history of being returned. But this human, he was different. The mother knelt down, her eyes warm. "Hello," she said gently. "What's your name?" "Lyra," she whispered, barely audible. "That's a beautiful name," the mother said, smiling. "Would you like to meet us properly?" Lyra hesitated. She had been hurt too many times. She had learned to expect disappointment. But there was something in the human father's steady gaze and the mother's kind smile that made her heart flutter. Slowly, she nodded. They guided her to a quiet corner of the room, away from the crowds. The small human child peeked at her with curiosity. "Hi," he said. "Do you want to play?" Lyra's lips curled into a tiny smile. I don't know how to play," she admitted. "That's okay," the child said cheerfully. "I'll teach you." For the first time in a long while, Lyra felt a spark of hope. Maybe this time would be different. Maybe this human family could be the ones who would see her not as a problem, but as someone extraordinary. Over the next few hours, the adoption officers came and went, observing Lyra and the humans. They noted her intelligence, her adaptability, and her unusual abilities. Some whispered among themselves, questioning whether a human family could handle a child like Lyra. Others shook their heads at her history of being returned, muttering that she was too much trouble. But Lyra didn't notice. She was too busy laughing at a small levitation game the human child had taught her, her glowing hands moving in careful arcs to keep a floating ball balanced in midair. She had forgotten, even if just for a moment, the sting of rejection and the weight of loneliness. The human father watched her closely, his eyes never leaving hers. "She's incredible," he said quietly to his partner. "She's not like any child I've ever met, but that's exactly why we should try." The mother nodded. "I agree, she needs a home, someone who believes in her." "We could be that family." Lyra overheard the words, though they were whispered. Her chest tightened with a strange warmth. Could it really be true? Could she finally belong somewhere? Just then, a loud announcement echoed through the station. "Next adoption review in 20 minutes. Families, please prepare for your final evaluations." Lyra's stomach churned. The final evaluation. This was it, the moment that could decide everything. She had faced rejection so many times, each return scarring her with disappointment. What if this time was no different? What if she lost another chance? But then she looked at the human family, at their expectant, gentle faces, and she felt a surge of courage. She wasn't alone. Maybe she had never been alone. Maybe all she needed was someone willing to see her true self. The human father extended his hand. "Lyra, would you walk with me?" Lyra took a deep breath, nodded, and placed her glowing hand in his. Together, they walked toward the evaluation chamber, leaving the waiting room behind. The stars outside the window seemed to shine brighter, as if cheering her on. As they entered the chamber, Lyra felt a mixture of fear and excitement. This was more than just a test. It was a chance for a future she had only dreamed about. She glanced at the human family, and for the first time in her life, she felt something she had almost forgotten: hope. The evaluation room was vast, filled with strange machines and screens. Droids hovered silently, recording every movement and expression. Lyra's skin shimmered nervously, her colors shifting rapidly. She knew she had to show them who she truly was, not who they expected her to be. The human father knelt beside her. "Just be yourself, Lyra," he whispered. "That's all we want." Lyra took a deep breath, squared her shoulders, and stepped forward. The past rejections, the loneliness, the fear, they were all behind her now. For the first time, she felt like she belonged. The evaluation began. Lights scanned her body, droids observed her reflexes, and screens displayed puzzles and challenges designed to test her mind. Lyra focused on each task, letting her curiosity guide her. When a small robot fell in the simulation, she instinctively leapt to save it, her glowing hands steady and precise. The humans watched with awe. The father's eyes gleamed with pride, and the mother's lips curved into a quiet smile. "See," the father whispered. "She's remarkable." Hours passed, each challenge more difficult than the last, but Lyra's courage never faltered. She laughed when she succeeded, and even when she stumbled, she rose again. For the first time, the evaluation didn't feel like a judgment. It felt like a chance to shine. When the final challenge ended, the droids powered down and the room fell silent. Lyra stood in the center, glowing softly, exhausted but exhilarated. She looked at the human family, who smiled back at her, their faces full of warmth and pride. A moment later, the chief officer of the station entered, her expression serious. "Lyra," she said, "your abilities, intelligence, and courage are remarkable. We have seen many children come and go, but few possess what you do. The question now is not whether you are capable of belonging, but whether a family is willing to give you that chance." Lyra's heart raced. She looked at the human father, who nodded confidently. "We are," he said firmly. Lyra's colors shifted in a dazzling display, reflecting her excitement. Could it really be happening? Could she finally have a place where she belonged, a home where she was wanted? For the first time in her life, Lyra allowed herself to imagine a future not defined by rejection, but by love, courage, and belonging. And as she walked hand in hand with the humans toward the exit, she felt the first stirrings of something she had almost forgotten: joy. Lyra's heart still raced as she followed the human family out of the evaluation room. The vast corridors of the intergalactic adoption station stretched endlessly, filled with glass panels, softly glowing lights, and the quiet hum of engines. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel small or invisible. For the first time, she felt noticed, not just seen but truly seen. The human father, Commander Elias, led the way, his hand large but gentle around hers. Beside him walked his partner, Marin, holding the small human child, Kyan, who had been excitedly chatting about the levitation games he would teach her. Lyra's glowing skin pulsed softly with every step, a reflection of her nervous excitement. "You did very well," Elias said quietly, glancing at her. "Most children would have struggled with the simulations. You didn't just succeed, you helped others in the process. That's very rare." Lyra felt a warm flush spread across her cheeks. I just did what seemed right," she whispered, unsure if she was allowed to be proud. She had been returned so many times that pride often felt like something forbidden. Marin smiled, crouching down to meet her eyes. "Sometimes doing the right thing is enough. And it shows your character. You have a very strong heart, Lyra." Lyra blinked, holding back tears. No one had ever said something like that to her before. Most had pointed out her mistakes or weaknesses. These humans were different. They looked for what was good, not what was wrong. They reached the family waiting area, a small lounge filled with cushioned seats and soft lighting. Other families were nearby, some still discussing adoption decisions, others quietly comforting nervous children. Lyra's hands hovered over her glowing skin, unsure how to behave in this new environment. Elias noticed her hesitation and sat down, patting the seat next to him. "You can sit here if you want," he said kindly. "We have some time before the adoption finalization." "I thought we could talk." Lyra took a careful step forward and settled beside him. Kyan immediately scooted closer, offering her a small levitation ball he had brought from the evaluation. "Here," he said. "Try it again. I can show you a new trick." Lyra accepted the ball cautiously. It hovered in front of her, spinning slowly. She reached out, her hands glowing softly as she guided it through the air. For a brief moment, she felt free, just a child playing a game with someone who wanted her there. "See," Kyan said with a grin. "You're learning fast." Lyra laughed softly, the sound small but bright. "It's fun," she admitted. Elias watched her with a mixture of admiration and thoughtfulness. He had seen many children in his time, human and alien, but Lyra was extraordinary. Not just because of her abilities, but because of her spirit. She had endured more than most could imagine, yet she still reached for connection, for trust. That resilience was rare, and it spoke to something deeply human, or at least deeply remarkable. "I need to ask you something," Elias said carefully, leaning closer. "You've been returned many times, haven't you?" Lyra's glow dimmed slightly, and she nodded. "Yes, I don't know why. I always try to be good, to be helpful, but they always send me back." Elias' heart ached at her words. "I think I understand. Sometimes others don't see what they should, they judge too quickly. But that doesn't mean you're not amazing. Sometimes it takes the right people to notice." Lyra's eyes glistened with unshed tears. No one had ever spoken to her like this. They hadn't scolded her or pointed out her differences. They saw her for who she truly was, not for what she lacked. Marin joined the conversation, her voice gentle. "Lyra, we don't want you to be perfect. We just want you to be yourself. That's more than enough for us." Lyra felt a warmth spreading through her chest. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like a burden. She felt wanted. They spent the next hour talking quietly. Elias asked about her interests and what she liked to do. Lyra hesitated at first, unsure how much to share. But the humans listened patiently, nodding and asking gentle questions. Slowly, she began to open up about her favorite things. The way stars shimmered on her home planet, the songs of alien birds she remembered, and the small machines she loved to fix. Kyan chimed in constantly, fascinated by her stories. "You can fix machines." "Like droids?" he asked, wide-eyed. Lyra nodded. "Yes, sometimes I can make them do what they need without breaking them." Elias' brow furrowed thoughtfully. "That's incredible. You could be very useful on a ship and also very creative. Problem-solving like that is rare." Lyra's heart swelled. It wasn't just the words, it was the way they said them. They weren't impressed in a superficial way. They were genuinely recognizing her value. As the conversation continued, a station official approached. "Commander Elias, the board is ready to finalize the adoption. Please proceed to the conference chamber." Elias nodded and stood, motioning for Lyra to follow. "Come on," he said, offering his hand again. "We're almost there." Lyra's glow brightened, a mixture of nervousness and excitement. She took his hand, feeling the warmth of his skin, and allowed herself to be led down the long corridor. The conference chamber was vast and circular, with a high ceiling that displayed the swirling colors of a nebula outside. Around a large table sat representatives of various species, including humans, aliens, and droids. They regarded Lyra with a mixture of curiosity and caution. Elias stepped forward confidently. "We are here to finalize the adoption of Lyra. She is remarkable, not just for her abilities, but for her character. We believe she will thrive in a loving, supportive human family." One of the alien representatives raised an eyebrow. "She has been returned many times. How do you know she will not be a problem?" Elias met the gaze calmly. "Because she is resilient, because she has courage, and because she deserves the chance to belong somewhere. That is more important than any risk." The chamber murmured. Another representative, a tall being with shimmering silver skin, spoke cautiously. "You claim to understand her needs better than those who have returned her. You are human. What makes you capable of raising an alien child?" Elias smiled slightly. "Because being human is not about being perfect. It's about caring, understanding, and choosing to see potential where others see difficulty. We choose to see Lyra for who she is, not who she has been judged to be." Lyra's glow pulsed with hope. The chamber was serious, but she felt safe. These humans were standing up for her, not against her. She realized then that she was not powerless. Her life didn't have to be defined by past rejections. The representatives exchanged quiet whispers. Finally, the chief officer of the station, a tall human woman, spoke. "We have observed Lyra's evaluation and interactions. Her abilities and intelligence are clear. What is most impressive, however, is her spirit. She has endured rejection, loneliness, and uncertainty, and yet she still seeks connection. That is rare in any child, human or alien." Elias nodded. "Exactly. She is ready for a family that sees her potential." The chamber fell silent for a moment. Then the chief officer smiled. "Commander Elias Marin, you have our approval. Lyra may join your family." Lyra's heart leapt. Her colors shimmered brightly, faster than ever, reflecting pure joy. She looked at Elias and Marin, then at Kyan, and felt an emotion she had almost forgotten, belonging. Elias extended his hand once more. "Lyra, welcome to your new home." Lyra took it without hesitation. For the first time in her life, she felt the weight of loneliness lift. She wasn't just another child being returned. She was someone who mattered, someone who could thrive. Someone who had finally found a place in the galaxy. As they left the chamber, Kyan bounced alongside her, chatting endlessly about the games they would play. Marin smiled, gently patting her back. Elias walked beside her, his presence steady and reassuring. Lyra's glowing skin pulsed softly in the hallway light. She looked out the large windows at the stars, and for the first time they seemed to shine just for her. She realized that the galaxy was not a cold, lonely place. It was full of possibilities, full of life, full of hope. That night, as they boarded a human transport ship to begin their journey home, Lyra curled up in a small cabin prepared for her. She looked at the human family, now quietly sharing a meal together, and felt something that had eluded her for so long. Warmth, safety, love. She knew there would be challenges ahead, new worlds to explore, lessons to learn, and the ongoing journey of adapting to a family that was different from any she had known. But for the first time, she believed she could face them. She had people who believed in her, people who chose to see her for her true self. Lyra drifted off to sleep, her glowing skin dimming to a soft, steady hue, dreaming of stars, laughter, and a future that was finally hers to shape. The stars streaked past the transport ship as it cruised through the galaxy, carrying Lyra and her new human family toward there. Homeworld. Outside the cabin window, nebulae glowed in pinks and purples, and tiny star clusters twinkled like diamonds. Lyra pressed her hands against the glass, watching the endless expanse, her heart pounding with both excitement and nervousness. She had finally found a family, but the new life ahead felt unfamiliar, full of unknown challenges. Kyan, her human playmate, bounced over to her cabin. "Lyra, come on. Mom and Dad said we're going to explore the ship today." His grin was wide, his excitement contagious. Lyra hesitated, unsure if she could keep up. She had spent so long waiting and being cautious, it felt strange to step boldly into a new routine. But the memory of Elias and Marin's smiles gave her courage. Slowly, she pushed open the cabin door and followed Kyan into the corridors. The ship was enormous, a maze of gleaming metal, soft lights, and quiet hums. Every room seemed to have its purpose: labs for experiments, a mess hall that smelled of warm food, small cabins for crew, and observation decks with breathtaking views of the galaxy. Lyra marveled at it all. The technology fascinated her, and she felt a spark of curiosity she hadn't felt in a long time. "Here," Kyan said, holding her hand. "This is the training deck. Mom and Dad said it's where we learn new skills. You can try whatever you like." Lyra blinked, excitement battling nervousness. "Skills?" she asked softly. Elias appeared behind them, his tall frame steady and reassuring. Yes, Lyra, it's important to learn how to live aboard a ship. There are controls to understand, systems to operate, and ways to keep yourself safe. But don't worry, we'll guide you every step of the way. Lyra's glowing skin pulsed with nervous energy. For so long, every time she had tried to show her abilities, she had been judged, dismissed, or returned. Would it be the same here? Would she succeed or fail again? Elias seemed to sense her hesitation. You don't have to be perfect, Lyra, he said. Mistakes are how we learn. Courage isn't about never falling, it's about trying again when you do. Lyra nodded slowly, drawing strength from his words. She stepped onto the training deck, her small hands hovering over the various controls. Panels lit up as she approached, sensors reacting to her glowing touch. Kyan cheered, bouncing alongside her. See, you're amazing already. The first lesson was simple, navigation. The ship moved through space with incredible precision, and Lyra had to learn to read the display, understanding speed, trajectory, and star charts. At first, the information overwhelmed her. Stars, coordinates, and routes flashed across the screen faster than she could process. But then she remembered the energy field she had controlled during her evaluation. She had a natural instinct for sensing patterns and manipulating forces. Slowly, her confidence grew. Her hands glowed softly as she adjusted the controls, and the display responded with smooth precision. Elias and Marin watched with quiet pride. She's adapting quickly, Marin said. She has a natural sense for this. Lyra beamed. The first real challenge of her new life had not ended in failure. She felt a spark of pride, a feeling she had rarely experienced before. The next lesson was teamwork. The family had planned a small simulation, a rescue operation in a virtual asteroid field. Lyra and Kyan had to work together to guide a small vessel safely past spinning asteroids and debris. At first, Lyra struggled. She wasn't used to coordinating with anyone, having spent so long on her own. But Kyan's cheerful guidance, combined with Elia's gentle instructions, helped her focus. She realized that working together didn't make her weak, it made her stronger. When they finally guided the vessel safely to the docking station, Kyan cheered loudly. We did it, he shouted, spinning in a circle. Lyra laughed, her glowing colors flashing brightly with joy. Good work, Elias said, placing a hand on her shoulder. You're learning not just the controls, but how to work as a team. That's very important for life on this ship, and in a family. Lyra nodded. For the first time, she felt that being different didn't have to be a burden. Her abilities, her quick thinking, and her curiosity could all be strengths when used in the right environment. The following days brought more lessons. Lyra learned how to maintain small machines, repair damaged circuits, and even manage simple communications with other ships. Each task challenged her in a new way, and sometimes she made mistakes. But every time she stumbled, Elias, Marin, and Kyan encouraged her, guiding her patiently. During one particularly challenging exercise, a small training droid went haywire, spinning out of control and knocking over equipment. Lyra's instincts kicked in. Her glowing hands reached out, and she managed to stabilize the droid midair, guiding it safely back to the control panel. Elias clapped his hands softly. Excellent reflexes, Lyra. You saved the droid and prevented damage. That was quick thinking under pressure. Lyra's cheeks flushed with pride. For so long, she had been judged for mistakes. Here, she was celebrated for her abilities. The feeling was exhilarating, and a small voice inside her whispered that maybe, just maybe, she could truly belong. Not all lessons were technical. Elias and Marin emphasized emotional growth as well. They encouraged Lyra to express herself, to share her fears, and to trust in the family. Some nights, they gathered in the observation deck, looking at distant stars and talking about home, friendship, and hope. One evening, Lyra opened up about her past. I've been returned so many times, she admitted, her voice trembling. I don't understand why. I just want to belong, but maybe I'm not meant to. Marin took her hand gently. Lyra, being returned doesn't mean you're not worthy. It means the timing wasn't right, or the people weren't ready to see your true self. You're extraordinary, and we're ready to see all of it. Elias nodded, his expression firm but warm. You have value, Lyra, and we're not sending you back. You're part of this family now, no matter what challenges come. We believe in you. Lyra felt tears prick at her eyes, but they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of relief and gratitude. For the first time, she didn't have to hide her past or her uniqueness. She could simply be herself. The next challenge came unexpectedly. A small asteroid passed dangerously close to the ship, triggering the emergency systems. Alarms blared and lights flashed red. Elias and Marin took control of the situation immediately, giving orders to stabilize the ship. Lyra felt a rush of fear, but then she remembered her training. She focused, using her hands to interface with the ship's auxiliary controls. With careful precision, she adjusted energy fields to stabilize minor systems, keeping the ship steady. Kyan watched her in awe. "Lyra, you're amazing!" Elias smiled, his heart swelling with pride. "She's more than amazing," he whispered to Marin. "She's extraordinary." She saved the minor systems before they could fail. When the asteroid passed safely, the alarm stopped. The ship returned to its calm hum, and Lyra's glow dimmed to a soft, steady light. She felt exhilarated and proud. For the first time, her abilities had made a real difference, saving others in a way that mattered. That night, Lyra sat quietly in the observation deck, looking at the stars. She realized that life with this family would not be easy. There would be tests, mistakes, and moments of fear. But she also realized that she no longer faced them alone. She had people who believed in her, who would guide her, and who would celebrate her strengths rather than judge her differences. The trials of acceptance were not over, but Lyra felt ready. She had learned that belonging wasn't just about being perfect. It was about courage, kindness, and the willingness to try. And for the first time in her life, she believed that she could thrive in a place where she was truly wanted. As she curled up to sleep that night, her glowing skin pulsing softly, Lyra made a silent promise to herself. She would not let fear or past rejections define her. She would embrace her uniqueness, learn from her mistakes, and grow alongside her new family. She would prove not just to them, but to herself that she belonged. And somewhere deep inside, she knew the galaxy was beginning to feel like home. Lyra's days on the ship had grown more comfortable, yet her excitement and curiosity never faded. She had learned so much: how to operate the ship's systems, navigate, repair small machines, and work with her human family as a team. But nothing could prepare her for the challenge that awaited them, their first mission outside the safety of the shipping lanes. The announcement came during a quiet breakfast. Elias, Marin, and Kyan sat around the small table, their meal floating in zero-gravity trays. Lyra sipped a warm drink, her glowing skin pulsing faintly in rhythm with her heartbeat. "Attention, crew," a calm voice echoed from the intercom. "A distress signal has been received from a nearby colony. All personnel are requested to prepare for immediate deployment." Elias' expression became serious. "It looks like we have a mission," he said, his eyes meeting Lyra's. "It's time to put your training into action." Lyra felt a rush of nerves, a real mission, something that could be dangerous. Her hands glowed faintly as she tried to steady herself. But when she looked at Elias, she saw confidence, not fear, and that gave her courage. "Are you ready, Lyra?" Marin asked gently. Lyra nodded. "I think so," she whispered. The family moved swiftly through the ship, donning specialized suits for safety. The docking bay opened, and the small transport vessel for the mission floated before them. Outside, the colony glowed faintly on a distant planet, a small cluster of lights against the dark surface. The distress signal had come from the central communications hub. Something had gone wrong, and the colony was cut off from the rest of the galaxy. As they approached the planet, the first signs of trouble became visible. Thick clouds of dust swirled around the colony, kicked up by mechanical failures in the energy fields. Communication towers flickered with sparks, and small drones flitted erratically, trying to stabilize systems. Elias took the lead. "Lyra, Marin, Kyan, stay close. The systems may be unstable, so watch your step. And remember, teamwork is key." Lyra's glowing hands tingled with nervous energy. She had trained for this, but a real crisis was different. The simulations had prepared her mind, but now her heart raced with uncertainty. They landed the vessel near the communications hub. The doors hissed open, and the family stepped out, careful with every movement. Lyra's skin shimmered softly, her glow reflecting the flickering lights of the damaged colony. "First, let's assess the situation," Elias instructed. He guided Lyra and Kyan to the central panel, where circuits and wires sparked dangerously. Marin scanned the environment for hazards, keeping the team safe. Lyra stepped closer to the panel, her hands glowing as she reached for the controls. She could feel the faint hum of energy running through the systems. Unlike any simulation, this was alive, unstable, unpredictable, and dangerous. Her instincts told her where to touch, where to redirect power, and how to stabilize the circuits. "Be careful," Kyan shouted, watching her. "It's sparking." Lyra focused, shutting out the fear. Her hands moved deliberately, glowing brighter as she manipulated the energy flow. Sparks fizzled harmlessly, and slowly the panel began to stabilize. The drones stopped their erratic movements, returning to their programmed paths. Elias watched her with quiet pride. "She's doing it," he whispered to Marin. "She's saving the system, that's remarkable." But the crisis wasn't over. A sudden alarm blared, and one of the larger power conduits began to overload. The smoke and sparks filled the air, making it difficult to see. Lyra's pulse quickened. She realized the overload could spread and disable the colony's life support if not stopped immediately. Without thinking, she reached deeper into the conduit controls, using her glowing energy to stabilize the field. Her small hands emitted a steady light that seemed to guide the circuits safely. Marin gasped. "Lyra, that's incredible. You're controlling the energy flow with your own power." Lyra nodded, her focus absolute. I have to help." With careful precision, she redirected the energy to backup systems. The sparks died down and the thick smoke slowly cleared. The lights on the panel returned to normal and the drones resumed their work. Kyan ran to her side, his eyes wide. "You saved them. You really did it." Elias placed a hand on Lyra's shoulder, his expression full of admiration. "You didn't just help, you prevented a disaster. Most adults wouldn't have been able to do what you just did." Lyra's cheeks flushed, and her glow pulsed with excitement and relief. She realized that her abilities weren't just unusual, they were valuable. For the first time, she understood that being different could make a difference. But just as they began to celebrate, the chief of the colony appeared. She was a tall alien with soft green skin and delicate antennae, looking tense but grateful. "Thank you for arriving so quickly," she said. "Our communications were failing and we feared isolation. You've saved us from a serious problem." Lyra's glowing hands dimmed slightly. She felt shy under the alien chief's gaze. I just tried to help," she whispered. The chief smiled warmly. "It is not just trying that matters, it is success that counts. You acted with courage and skill. You've proven yourself today." Marin crouched beside Lyra. "See. Courage and kindness make a difference. You help not just the colony, but all of us here too." Elias added, "Lyra, this is exactly why we wanted you in our family. You have a rare gift, not just in your abilities, but in your willingness to act when it matters." Lyra's glow pulsed with pride. For so long, she had been rejected and returned, judged for being different. Now she realized that the very traits that had made others hesitant were the ones that made her special. She wasn't a problem, she was a solution. The colony chief nodded to Elias. "Your family's teamwork is admirable. It is rare to see such trust and collaboration, especially with a child who has never been part of our world before." Elias smiled. "She's not just a child, we're a team. And she's extraordinary in her own way." Lyra beamed, feeling warmth and belonging flood her chest. She had always wondered if anyone would see her worth. Today, not only did this human family believe in her, but the colony itself had witnessed her courage. She felt a sense of pride and confidence she had never known. After the crisis, the family returned to their ship. Lyra was quiet, reflecting on what had happened. The stars outside the window sparkled brightly, and she realized that being part of a family meant more than just living together. It meant trusting each other, helping one another, and using their strengths to make the universe a better place. That night, as the ship drifted through calm space, Elias and Marin sat beside Lyra and Kyan on the observation deck. "You did well today," Elias said, his voice steady and warm. "You faced danger, stayed calm, and acted with courage." "That's something very few beings can do, Lyra." Lyra's glow brightened softly. I didn't think I could do it," she admitted. Marin smiled. "You can do more than you think. Sometimes we just need someone to believe in us. That's what family does." Kyan leaned against her, his small hand brushing hers. "I knew you could do it. You're my hero, Lyra." For the first time, Lyra allowed herself to feel completely proud. She had faced danger, used her abilities to save others, and discovered the value of trust, teamwork, and courage. She realized that humans weren't just strong in body. They were strong in heart, in their belief in others, in their willingness to give a chance to someone who had been rejected many times. Lyra understood then that she was not alone. She had a family that loved her, a team that trusted her, and the chance to grow in a world that had once seemed too big and indifferent. Her past rejections no longer defined her future. As she curled up to sleep that night, her glow dimming to a steady, comforting light, Lyra thought about the mission and the lessons she had learned. She understood that being different was not a weakness, it was a strength. And she had a family who saw that strength and celebrated it. For the first time in her life, Lyra felt truly at home, not just on a ship or with a family, but within herself. She had proven that courage, kindness, and a willingness to help others could overcome fear and doubt. And she knew that with her new family by her side, there was nothing she could not face. The galaxy was vast and full of challenges, but Lyra's heart was full. She had found her place in the universe, and for the first time she understood the power of humanity, not just in technology or exploration, but in trust, love, and belief in others. The stars outside seemed to shine brighter than ever, as if acknowledging the courage of a small alien girl who had finally found where she belonged. The galaxy outside the observation deck shimmered with colors that Lyra had never seen before. Bright nebulae swirled in pinks, purples, and blues, and distant stars twinkled like tiny beacons of hope. Lyra pressed her hands to the glass, watching the endless expanse, her glowing skin pulsing softly with excitement. Today felt different. Today felt like the start of something new, a life where she truly belonged. Kyan bounced over, holding a small floating toy. "Lyra, come on. Mom and Dad said we're going to explore the planet when we land." Lyra smiled, her heart fluttering. The thought of walking on a new world, not alone but with a family, filled her with joy. "I'm coming," she said, grabbing his hand. Elias and Marin followed behind them, their expressions calm but full of pride. They had guided Lyra through training, through the first real mission, and now it was time to help her settle fully into her new life. Lyra realized how much they had trusted her, believed in her, and encouraged her to grow. That trust had changed her. As the transport ship descended toward the planet, Lyra felt a mixture of nervousness and anticipation. The landing zone was lush and green, with towering trees and sparkling lakes. The planet seemed alive, welcoming them with gentle sunlight and soft breezes that ruffled their hair and fur. Elias led the way. "Lyra, this is your new home, or at least part of it. We'll live here together, learn together, and explore together." Lyra's hands glowed softly, her colors shifting with happiness. "It's beautiful," she whispered. She felt a sense of awe she hadn't felt in years, not since the first time she had left her home planet as a baby. Marin smiled. "And it will be even more beautiful with you here." The family explored the settlement together. Kyan raced ahead, pointing out interesting plants and unusual rock formations. Lyra followed, her curiosity guiding her as she touched leaves and stones, sensing the energy of the planet in ways that humans could not. Elias and Marin watched her quietly, admiring how she noticed things that others might overlook. Later, they arrived at their new home, a modest yet comfortable dwelling designed for humans but adapted for Lyra as well. Inside, the furniture floated slightly, designed for zero gravity and flexibility. Small shelves held tools, books, and games. A corner of the room was reserved just for Lyra, filled with soft cushions, glowing devices, and panels that allowed her to interact with the ship remotely. Lyra walked over to her corner, touching the panels carefully. She felt a sense of ownership, of belonging that she had never felt before. This was her space, a place where she could explore, learn, and grow. Kyan followed, plopping down beside her. "Do you like it?" he asked. Lyra nodded, smiling. "Yes, it's perfect." Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. "You earned it, Lyra. This is your home now, and we're proud to have you in our family." Lyra's glow brightened. She realized that for the first time, she didn't have to hide or pretend. She could be herself, curious, brave, and helpful, and she was welcomed for it. The next days were filled with learning and discovery. Lyra helped Kyan build small machines, repaired minor equipment around the dwelling, and learned about the planet's environment. Every new task was an opportunity to grow, and every time she succeeded, Elias and Marin celebrated her efforts. One afternoon, while exploring a nearby forest, Lyra sensed something unusual. The ground trembled slightly beneath her feet, and the air vibrated with a faint energy. She paused, her glowing hands brushing against the soil. "Something's wrong," she whispered. Elias knelt beside her. "What do you sense, Lyra?" "There's an energy imbalance nearby," she said, concentrating. "It could be dangerous if left unchecked." Marin looked concerned. "We should check it out carefully." Lyra led the way through the forest, her senses guiding them toward the source. They discovered a small clearing where a malfunctioning energy node was causing the local wildlife to panic. Drones and plants alike were reacting to the unstable energy, and if the node wasn't fixed, it could spread disruption throughout the area. Elias handed Lyra a set of tools. "This is your chance, Lyra. Show us what you can do." Lyra took a deep breath, her glow intensifying. She approached the node carefully, feeling the currents of energy flowing through it. She adjusted the conduits, guided the power with her hands, and stabilized the node. Sparks died down, and the wildlife began to calm. Marin watched, astonished. "Lyra, you fixed it." "You really did it," Kyan cheered, jumping up and down. "You're amazing." Lyra's glow shifted through bright colors as she smiled. She felt proud, not just for saving the node, but for realizing that her abilities could protect others. She wasn't just a child being cared for, she was someone who could make a difference. That evening, the family gathered around a campfire near their home. The twin moons rose in the sky, casting silver light over the landscape. Lyra sat quietly, thinking about how far she had come. From being returned too many times to finally having a family who believed in her, every step had been a journey of courage and trust. Elias glanced at her. "Lyra, today you showed everyone, us and yourself, how capable and brave you are. You're part of this family, and together we can face anything." Lyra's cheeks glowed softly. "Thank you for believing in me." Marin placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "We didn't just believe in your abilities, Lyra. We believed in you. Your courage, kindness, and determination are what make you special." Kyan leaned against her. "And I'm so glad you're my sister now. We're going to have so many adventures together." Lyra laughed softly, the sound bright and clear. For the first time, she felt completely at peace. She had found people who valued her for who she was, who encouraged her to grow, and who trusted her to be brave. She realized that a forever home wasn't just a place. It was a feeling of love, trust, and belonging. Over the next weeks, Lyra continued to thrive. She learned new skills, helped maintain the settlement, and even taught Kyan some of her unique abilities. She explored the forests, rivers, and hills of the planet, discovering the energy flows and rhythms of the world. Every day brought new challenges, but also new opportunities to learn, grow, and connect. One morning, a message arrived from the Interstellar Network. Another colony was in need of help, and the family had the chance to assist. Lyra's heart raced with excitement. This was her opportunity to apply everything she had learned, to use her abilities not just for herself, but to help others. Elias turned to her. "Lyra, are you ready for another mission?" Lyra nodded firmly, her glow bright with determination. "Yes, I want to help," Marin smiled. "Then we go together, we're a family, and we face challenges as a team." Kyan grabbed her hand. "Let's go save the day." As they prepared the ship for departure, Lyra looked out at the stars. She remembered the long journey that had brought her here, the rejections, the loneliness, the fear. Every step had been difficult, but it had led her to this moment, a life filled with love, trust, and adventure. She realized that her past no longer defined her. She was more than her rejections. She was bravery, curiosity, and kindness combined. She was part of a family that believed in her. She had found her forever home. The ship lifted off, gliding smoothly into the vastness of space. Lyra's hands glowed with excitement as she worked alongside Elias, Marin, and Kyan. They guided the vessel toward the distant colony, ready to face whatever challenges awaited. For the first time in her life, Lyra knew that no matter what the galaxy threw at her, she could face it. She had courage, abilities, and a family who believed in her. And as the stars streaked past, she smiled, feeling the warmth of home in her heart. Lyra had finally found her place in the universe, a forever home, a family who loved her, and the knowledge that she could make a difference just by being herself. The galaxy stretched endlessly before her, full of wonders, challenges, and possibilities. But for Lyra, none of it felt lonely anymore. She was exactly where she belonged, and for the first time, she felt truly complete.